I was amazed that this actually started the show. Like, you are showing major huevos starting off the show with Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson. Because here's the thing. Nobody can top what they can do inside that 20 by 20 squared circle. There's no way you could do that with this. And it's like, why the hell do you start off with this? And then you think about it, this is the perfect opportunity to hook somebody. And this was the perfect match to do so. A 30-minute time limit draw. And it was so good. Like, from the second they got into the ring, Bryan Danielson over huge. The crowd chant F him up, Bryan, and they're going crazy. They're just loving Daniel Bryan, and they're red hot for the entire 30 minutes. They're spent. And this was a damn near perfect match. I don't normally give star ratings or Boudin ratings on the Cajun Strong Style podcast for TV shows, but I think with this one in particular, I've got to do it. It's a 5 Lincoln Boudin match, and it's not even close. It's probably, I'd say, third or fourth best match of the entire year, and that's saying something considering all the stuff you've had this year from AEW. And even WWE has had some really good matches that definitely deserve to be in consideration, but it's definitely, I feel like, top 3. Once we get into December, I'll give you a match of the year rating and which match I think is the absolute best. But in terms of TV, this may be one of the best TV matches of all time. Obviously, CM Punk, John Cena from 2013 after Elimination Chamber. That was an absolute banger and just so damn good and smooth. Then you also have, I'd say, Cena versus HBK during the European tour in 2007 that lasted like an hour. And if I'm not mistaken, that was more because the fact that I think either Edge or Orton had heat, so their matches got pulled from the card or something. Like I remember reading dirt sheets at the time and seeing it had to do something with some heat or somebody got in trouble, so they pulled the match from the card and they had Cena and HBK go an hour. That was an amazing match in and of itself. I think we can definitely put a few more up there. Christian, Kenny Omega from earlier this year was good, not great. But outside that, there's probably not many in terms of strictly weekly TV programming, because I can't really count some of the clashes because they did air on TBS on the Superstation. I can't count those entirely. But it's pretty tough to think about anything else outside of what I just mentioned and Angle Lesnar, the Iron Man match on SmackDown. Even Benoit Triple H was a fun Iron Man match. It didn't match anywhere close to the technical wrestling ability to where I could consider it a 4 or 5 star TV match. And no, I'm not counting Dragunov Walter 1 because while it was on a weekly television show in terms of what you think about television, but it was streaming. I can't necessarily count that. I feel like in terms of the 3 or 4 that I just mentioned, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, those guys, like those were some amazing matches that will probably stand the test of time. Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson did just that, and it had everything. It was very much the greatest hits of Kenny Omega and the greatest hits of Bryan Danielson. Every time you saw him in terms of Bryan Danielson go down, he turned it around. At one point, he locked in the cattle mutilation, and I popped like crazy. I kind of knew that the ending was going to be a draw because that's the only way you could book this. Because you can't have Kenny Omega lose on TV, number one, unless it's somebody like a Adam Page. And I'm going to say it right now. I think this main event's Full Gear. You're going to have a rematch, and he's going to have to... Bryan Danielson, I'm almost saying Daniel Bryan, damn it. I think that there's a situation where Bryan Danielson gets a rematch because the fact that it went to a time limit draw, and they draw this out. They drag this out for a couple months, leading into Full Gear. And just follow with me. At Full Gear, I think Kenny does win. They're going to stretch this out into November because you can't blow your wad and give us 2 straight matches. And I think he wins because I don't see them doing a trilogy after 2 straight draws, one being 30, the next being 60, and then you have the third match be a no time limit. That hasn't necessarily been established. It would be an amazing moment in the history of the sport and in terms of the history books, because it would be very similar to a certain extent. I think Steamboat Flair, their first 2 matches with time limit draws, and they had the third one. I know for sure Joe versus Punk, the trilogy they had, the first 2 matches went a 60-minute time limit, and then they had the last match, and it was a no time limit to make sure they had an undisputed winner. I'm almost certain you're going to have a situation where Kenny wins at like 55 minutes. Within a 5-minute time span, he's got to win this match. And then he moves on. Meanwhile, a little bit further down on the card, I think this would be a great opener. I think we have an opener for the Owen Hart Cup, the Owen, because that's going to be coming up. And I feel like they could really run an 8-man tournament over the course of the next several weeks. And I think this would be the perfect opportunity to have whoever wins it winds up getting a title shot down the road. And let's just say Adam Page returns for this tournament. He's one of the 8 participants. And just for fun's sake, I'm going to go ahead and put him paired up against MJF. Just for the fun of it. Because I think that'd probably be the best case scenario. Adam Page, MJF, the first match, and it's for the Owen Hart Cup. The Owen Hart final. Adam Page wins, and he moves on. And just because I think that Tony Khan is enough of a madman to pull this off, Adam Page cashes in his opportunity to face off against Kenny at AEW Dynamite in West Virginia, his hometown, and he wins in his hometown. That would be an amazing end to this storyline, into the chase, because we've been waiting for the end of the road for this chase for a long time. That's kind of where I feel like this future goes over the next few months. And then MJF eventually does take the title away from Adam Page for one reason or another, and we get to see potentially Page chase again. But I think the right way to go about it is Jungle Boy eventually gets an opportunity for the title against MJF and takes it from him. Maybe a Double or Nothing or All Out, because you got to remember, a few years ago, these two were fighting, I believe, in the pre-show, possibly for Double or Nothing in 2020. Like a couple years ago, these two were dark matches, or not dark matches, but they were free TV. They were free on YouTube in the pre-show, and then they main event a couple years down the road. It really, and the fact that I know Jungle Boy in the next year, he's poised to be a AEW champion. That's just the way I think about it. Now, if it's the way Tony Khan does it, I don't know, but I feel like that's the direction they want to take. And if you want to wind up making a statement and drawing the biggest numbers possible, Kenny Omega, Adam Page would do that, because you know the second they put the title on the line, everybody's anticipating the AEW World Champion to be Hangman when it's all said and done. But going back to the match itself, it was amazing. Like, so many of the greatest hits. And Bryan Danielson, give him all the damn credit in the world. He managed to just completely go full bore here. Everything he did was amazing. And the fact that he took so many bad-looking bumps, Snapdragon suplex on the ramp, a lot of other Snapdragon. In fact, he had a top rope dragon suplex teased by Omega. Danielson got out of it, and then he hit a big super backdrop. Then we get an avalanche dragon suplex a few minutes later. After a Regalplex for 2.9, Danielson countered the one-winged angel with a poison Rana. Right when he did that, I was like, oh my goodness. Kenny Omega goes for the last resort, going for the Phoenix Splash and misses it. And Excalibur brought up, again, this is something I've talked about in the past. Excalibur is great in terms of collecting nodes and having these different like stats and facts come up. This was a perfect example of him crushing it. Because he brought up the fact the last time Omega went for it. So it establishes the Phoenix Splash as kind of that last resort move. And if he misses it, either he's going to win, either he's going to lose, or it could be a draw, like it happened in this match. And this was, again, the right finish we needed to see. The super click run in right after, and they save Omega from being killed in the ring. We see a super kick party on Bryan, but Jurassic Express and Christian Cage, they make the save that teases the 6-man tag going on the next night, which, by the way, was a really good 6-man tag, and it was cool to see the super click back together for the first time in a long while.